In Japan, there are tunnels sealed with concrete, islands filled with empty high-rises, and underground bases carved for soldiers who never walked back out. Some were abandoned, others became mass graves. The buildings are empty. The stories, and maybe the ghosts, are not. Every abandoned place has a story. But in Japan, some stories are just waiting to be told by the ghosts left behind. What really happened in these forgotten ruins? Across Japan, a quiet crisis is unfolding. As of 2023, there are over 9 million abandoned homes, known as akiya. Most are just empty houses, but some have become something else, what the Japanese call Haikyo, ruins. Forgotten hospitals where medical equipment gathers dust, schools with lessons still frozen on the chalkboards, entire villages being swallowed by nature. These aren't just empty buildings. They're vessels of memory, soaked with the lives that passed through them. In Japanese culture, the boundary between our world and the spirit world is thin. A place marked by tragedy, intense emotion, or a violent end can become a scar on the landscape, a spot where the past refuses to die. The spirits of the dead, known as yūrei, are believed to linger where they suffered, unable to find peace. These aren't just campfire tales. For many, they are a palpable reality. These spirits are bound to the places that broke them, waiting. Tonight, we journey into the dark heart of Japan's most notorious Haikyo. We'll walk the crumbling halls of places where chilling legends were born from real-life tragedy. We'll uncover the history that the dust and decay have tried to bury. The ghosts within are waiting to tell their stories. Are you ready to listen? Our first journey takes us to Fukuoka Prefecture, to a name whispered with a special kind of dread in Japan, Inunaki. It means dogs howl, and the name itself feels like an omen. But it's the stories attached to this place that have sealed its reputation as one of the most terrifying spots in the country. The legend speaks of two distinct but connected horrors: a cursed, lawless village hidden deep in the forest, and a tunnel that serves as its gateway, a place stained by real, documented violence. The legend of Inunaki Village is pure, distilled folklore, the kind that spreads like wildfire on late-night forums and never quite dies. The story goes that beyond the old Inunaki Tunnel lies a village that time forgot, a place that exists completely outside of Japanese law. A hand-painted sign is said to stand at its entrance, a stark warning: the Japanese Constitution is not in effect passed here. According to the tale, the villagers are hostile and violent, practicing cannibalism and attacking any outsiders with sickles and axes to protect their isolation. Cell phones don't work. Compasses spin wildly. No one who enters is ever said to return. One popular version tells of a young couple whose car broke down near the tunnel in the 1970s. They wandered into the woods looking for help and stumbled upon the village. They were met by a crazy old man who murdered them both with a sickle. Their car is said to still sit at the village entrance, a rusted monument to their fate. The story blew up in 1999 when a TV station in Japan received an anonymous letter titled, "The Village in Japan That Isn't Part of Japan." It detailed the legend and dared the news crew to investigate. From there, the legend of this terrifying micronation of killers exploded, eventually inspiring the 2019 horror film Howling Village. There are really two Inunakis: the impossible village that lives on in rumor, and the very real tunnel where a man was burned alive. But is any of it true? Well, historians will tell you that there was a real Inunaki village, established back in the Edo period for coal miners and ceramicists. But the village officially merged with a nearby town in 1889, and its original site was completely submerged when the Inunaki Dam was built in 1986. Today, the Inunaki Village of legend remains just that, a legend. No satellite image, no drone, and no brave explorer has ever found proof it exists. But while the village may be folklore, the horror of the Inunaki Tunnel is terrifyingly real. There are actually two tunnels. The new one, built in 1975, is still used today. But it's the old tunnel, completed in 1949, and now sealed with concrete blocks, that is the heart of the darkness. Long before the village legend took hold, the tunnel was already considered haunted. Locals told stories of workers who died during construction, their bodies supposedly buried inside the concrete walls, their angry spirits forever trapped. This dark reputation was cemented on December 6, 1988. A group of 5 youths abducted a 20-year-old factory worker named Koichi Umeyama. Their motive was sickeningly trivial. They wanted to steal his car. When he refused, they kidnapped and tortured him. Umeyama made a desperate escape and ran for his life, but he was recaptured. Fearing he'd go to the police, they decided to kill him. They drove him to the abandoned old Inunaki Tunnel, doused him in gasoline, and burned him alive. His body was found the next day. The murderers were later caught after boasting about the crime and were sentenced to life in prison. This brutal, real-life murder fused with the folklore, creating a perfect storm of terror. The killing gave a concrete anchor to the ghostly legends. People who dared to approach the sealed-off tunnel reported hearing blood-curdling screams and disembodied howls echoing from the darkness. Electronic equipment is said to fail, and car engines stall without reason. Some have even reported seeing the ghostly figure of Koichi Umeyama or feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, like they're being watched. Another story tells of a phantom phone booth near the tunnel. Legend says that at exactly 2 a.m. every night, a call comes from the other side, from the lost Inunaki Village. Answer it, and you're cursed, slowly losing your mind before being dragged to the village, never to be seen again. Today, heavy concrete slabs block the entrance to the old Inunaki Tunnel, as if to physically hold back the evil inside. But seals can't stop stories. Whether it's the fictional horror of a lawless village or the very real ghost of a horrific murder, Inunaki is where Japan's deepest fears converge. The howling you hear might just be the wind, or it could be something else entirely. From a place born of folklore and a single brutal act, we travel south. We leave the suffocating darkness of the forest for the vast, unforgiving sea. Our next stop is an island that was once a symbol of Japan's industrial might, a concrete city teeming with life. But its prosperity was built on suffering, and when it was abandoned, it left behind more than just empty buildings. It left behind ghosts. This is Gunkanjima, the Battleship Island. Off the coast of Nagasaki, an island rises from the sea. From a distance, its silhouette is unmistakable, a dense cluster of concrete high-rises ringed by a seawall, looking like a massive gray warship. This is Hashima Island, but the world knows it as Gunkanjima, Battleship Island. Today, it's one of Japan's most famous Haikyo, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and a ghost town frozen in time. But its haunting beauty hides a history of immense hardship and the lingering echoes of those who suffered there. Gunkanjima's story begins in the late 1800s, when Mitsubishi bought the island after discovering a rich undersea coal deposit. To power Japan's Industrial Revolution, a massive mining operation began. To house the thousands of workers needed, A city was built right on this tiny 16-acre rock. 10-story apartment blocks, Japan's first large-scale concrete buildings, were crammed together, connected by a labyrinth of stairs and corridors. At its peak in the late 1950s, over 5,200 people lived on Gunkanjima, making it one of the most densely populated places on Earth at the time. On the surface, life on the island was a futuristic dream. Residents had modern marvels like televisions and refrigerators long before many on the mainland. The island had its own school, hospital, cinema, and shops. It was a self-contained world. But a world that small can start to feel like a cage, especially when you're not there by choice. This progress came at a terrible price, especially in the decades leading up to and during World War II. During its operational years, the island was so covered in concrete that it earned the nickname Midori Nashi Shima, the island without green. To fuel the war machine, the demand for coal was relentless. With Japanese men drafted into the military, the government turned to forced labor. Starting in the late 1930s, Korean civilians and Chinese prisoners of war were brought to Japan to work in mines and factories. Many of them were sent to Gunkanjima. For these men, the island was hell. They were subjected to horrific conditions, working in deep, sweltering mine shafts over a kilometer beneath the ocean floor. Former laborers told stories of starvation, exhaustion, and brutal treatment. They were given tiny rations and lived in cramped, filthy quarters. Hundreds died from malnutrition, disease, or accidents. Some, in utter desperation, tried to escape by jumping into the treacherous sea, hoping to swim to the mainland. A journey few, if any, survived. The dark history of forced labor on the island was largely ignored for decades and remains a point of contention between Japan and South Korea. In the 1960s, Japan shifted from coal to oil, and the mine's fate was sealed. In January 1974, Mitsubishi announced the closure. The exodus was stunningly fast. Within 3 months, the island was completely empty. Residents left behind a fully furnished city. Televisions, furniture, newspapers, and toys were all left to the mercy of salt-laced wind and typhoons. Gunkanjima became a ghost island, a time capsule of 1974. For over 30 years, the island was strictly off-limits, slowly surrendering to nature. The concrete buildings began to crack and crumble. For the first time, greenery began to sprout through the cracks. The eerie silence was broken only by the wind whistling through shattered windows. It was during this isolation that the ghost stories multiplied. People who illegally visited the island reported hearing faint whispers in the abandoned apartments, the ghostly sounds of children laughing in the derelict school, or the distant clang of a pickaxe from the sealed-off mines. Some claimed to see shadowy figures in the windows of the crumbling hospital, or felt an overwhelming sense of sadness wash over them. The most common apparitions are said to be the spirits of the forced laborers. Visitors on the now legal tours, restricted to a small pathway, have reported seeing gaunt, spectral figures in mining gear in the restricted zones, watching with hollow eyes. The belief is that these are the souls of the men who were worked to death, their spirits forever bound to the island where they suffered. They are the yūrei of Gunkanjima, unable to move on, their tragic stories left unacknowledged. The true haunting of Gunkanjima isn't just paranormal whispers on the wind. It's the weight of its dark, unresolved history. The ghosts of Battleship Island aren't just figments of the imagination. They are the memories of the lives that were built, lived, and brutally extinguished on this lonely rock in the sea. Our journey now takes us from an island of industrial decay to one scarred by the fires of war. We're going to the southernmost prefecture of Japan, Okinawa, a place of stunning beauty that was the stage for one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. Deep beneath its soil lies a place of calculated desperation and mass tragedy, a tomb where thousands of voices were silenced in an instant. This is the former Japanese Naval Underground Headquarters. In the final, desperate year of World War II, as Allied forces closed in, the island of Okinawa became the last major battleground. The 82-day Battle of Okinawa, which began on April 1, 1945, was a conflict of unimaginable ferocity, nicknamed the Typhoon of Steel for the sheer storm of shells, bullets, and metal raining down on the island. Over 250,000 lives were lost, including nearly 150,000 Okinawan civilians caught in the crossfire. It was here, in this cauldron of violence, that the Japanese Imperial Navy carved a final command post deep into the hills just south of Naha. In 1944, using simple tools like pickaxes and shovels, the Navy Construction Unit dug 450 meters of interconnected tunnels to serve as their nerve center. From these damp, dimly lit corridors, Rear Admiral Minoru Ota commanded the roughly 10,000 Japanese sailors on the island. As American forces advanced, the situation became apocalyptic. The Japanese military had spread terrifying propaganda, telling Okinawan civilians that American soldiers were brutes who would torture and kill them if they were captured. Surrender, they were told, was not an option. Better to die an honorable death. Tragically, this led to mass civilian suicides, or shudan jiketsu. Japanese soldiers distributed hand grenades to families, instructing them to kill themselves rather than be captured. In caves and shelters, entire families took their own lives, a state-sponsored slaughter born of fear. By early June 1945, the battle was lost. From deep inside the headquarters, Admiral Ota knew the end was near. On June 6th, he sent a final, lengthy telegram to Tokyo. In it, he didn't talk about military strategy. Instead, he described the immense suffering of the Okinawan people, who had fought alongside the military without complaint. He pleaded that after the war, the Okinawan people be given special consideration by the government. A few days later, as American troops closed in, Admiral Ota and his senior officers prepared for their final act. Following military code, they committed ritual suicide in the command room. Over the next several days, the remaining 4,000 sailors trapped in the tunnels followed their lead. The headquarters became a mass grave. Many used hand grenades, blowing themselves apart in the narrow corridors. The sounds of explosions would have echoed through the labyrinth, a deafening final crescendo to the battle. After the war, the headquarters was sealed. In 1970, about 300 meters of the tunnels were restored and opened as a peace memorial. Today, you can walk through the same corridors where thousands of men spent their last horrifying moments. The air is cold, damp, and heavy. You can still see the pickaxe marks scarring the walls. But it's in one of the officers' rooms where the horror becomes real. The concrete walls are violently pockmarked. A simple sign explains that these are shrapnel marks from a hand grenade used in a suicide. You are standing in the exact spot where a man detonated a bomb to take his own life. The physical evidence is so stark, it becomes a present, palpable horror. It's no surprise that the tunnels are considered one of the most haunted places in Okinawa. Visitors report hearing disembodied whispers, shouts, and mournful cries echoing through the corridors. People feel sudden drops in temperature, and the overwhelming sensation of being watched. Shadowy figures of soldiers are seen darting in the periphery, only to vanish. The spirits here are believed to be the yūrei of the thousands of sailors who died within these walls. Trapped by the trauma of their final moments, they're said to be in a state of perpetual confusion, endlessly reliving the final hours of the battle. A visit here isn't just a history lesson. It's a descent into a place of profound sorrow, a memorial built from the very earth that became a tomb. From the mythical terror of Inunaki Village to the industrial graveyard of Gunkanjima and the subterranean tomb beneath Okinawa, Japan's abandoned places are more than decaying structures. They are monuments to tragedy, archives of suffering, and sanctuaries for the spirits left behind. The practice of exploring them, Haikyo, is more than thrill-seeking. It's an act of bearing witness, of listening to the silence, and trying to read the stories etched into rust and rot. These places remind us that history isn't just in books. It clings to walls, stains the soil, and sometimes reaches out from the shadows. The stories are there, waiting. The only question is whether we're brave enough to look. These ruins hold stories that some people have tried to bury, but the echoes of the past refuse to be silenced. There are countless other Haikyo scattered across Japan, each with its own secret and its own ghosts waiting to be heard. If you want to keep exploring Japan's forgotten and haunted places with us, hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next journey. Here at Horror Across Borders, we drop a video every Tuesday and Thursday. I want to hear from you. Which of these places unsettled you the most? Inunaki, Battleship Island, or the Okinawa tunnels? Do you think they're truly haunted, or are we just hearing the echoes of history? Tell me in the comments. And if there's a location, anywhere in the world, you want us to investigate next, drop it below. Your idea might become our next chilling tale.